world. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. This is your girl, LD Marie, and it is Let Them See Your Mind. Today, I want to get into some hard truths. As you know, I am a social worker. I came over to the United Kingdom as a social worker, joined into their workforce as a way to expand my professional horizon. And then also, I wanted to travel more. I wanted to experience something different. I wanted to take a leap of faith and just changed my life completely, which I have. We are thinking on this is a year me being here, and it has been like a whirlwind experience. And I don't think I would trade that for anything. But I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about just the professional in the United Kingdom here. And I wanted to discuss with you I wanted to discuss with you today on an article that I read, and it really hit home for me. So I'm gonna put the link in my description box in regards to the article. Basically, the article title is "Everyone Thought I Was the Best Social Worker, but I Was Hiding a Secret." And this article very much touched me. It's about like essentially like everyone, all families, all managers, all chair people, everyone surrounding this particular person thought that she was the best social worker ever. But in actual reality, she was stressed, she was anxious. She came home at night and was drinking and came home at just feeling depressed and really just loathing the job. And it's not the simple fact that social workers don't expect that there are going to be some ups and downs, but when you're working in this type of profession, when it is child welfare, you are exposed to a lot of different things, whether it be good, bad, ugly, in between. You are berated, you are yelled at, you are screamed at, you are expected to have everything done as far as paperwork, assessments, in time scales, or you get, and then you also dealing with your own life. And so I really wanted to discuss today the hard truth about being a social worker, burnout, the hard truth about what a social worker kind of takes in each and every day when they are within their field. And a lot of times, when you're in a particular field like mine, which is child welfare or child protection, it really drains you mentally, physically, and emotionally. And I really connected with this article because when I first came into this particular job, I didn't even realize it at first. But when I first came into this job, like I would have a drink of wine every single night, and it was within that first couple of weeks, and it was like bam, boom, bam, just everything coming in, and I felt that I need, oh well, let me just take the edge off. Let me take the edge off, and then when I it clicked when I broke down 2 weeks into the job because everything was just so overwhelming for me that I was using alcohol to kind of mellow out. I was using alcohol as a coping skill. I was now I think I've changed my coping skill to just mindlessly watching TV and just kind of decompressing that way. But I was using alcohol every single night to kind of decompress and kind of taking the edge off of things. And I know that I'm one of many social workers that probably feel that same way, and or have done it. And some people they have good ways of coping with the high caseloads, the paperwork, this, that. But you feel that constant pressure. Honestly, I don't think that pressure ever goes away unless you really kind of get a groove and get a groove into things. And it takes time to get into a group of things, but when stuff starts piling up, it it very much feels that you are underwater and you're always wanting to you always thinking about work, like constantly. Today during the weekend, like I know there's a list stuff of work that I need to get done, and I'm about to go on vacation, about to go on holiday, and I know literally every time I go on holiday, regardless if I feel like, oh, I got something efficient going, there's always a lot of piled work before I actually go away, whether it be 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or just even a few days. Like, even taking a day off can feel very overwhelming for a person when they know they have X amount to do or this amount to do, but you have to force yourself to do those things. As a social worker working in a child welfare system, you can't feel sorry about taking your days off. You can't feel sorry about having your time, but a lot of social workers do. And we're gonna get into it. And so I read this particular stat and basically saying that an average working life for a doctor is 25 years, but for a social worker it's 7.5 years. And one of the reasons behind this is particularly social workers seem to have a high level of stress or spend too much time working. 7.5 years. I have been a social worker for almost 9 years, and I've told you in previous videos and previous podcasts that I'm thinking of leaving social work. Well, I'm not thinking, I am leaving social work sometime soon. I just don't know when or how that's going to actually work out. But I know that I want to transition to something else. And just reading that statistic right there is Godsmack. Like 7.5 years. And then when you see other people like, oh, I've been working for 10 years, 20 years, it's like I we would love to know your secret, especially within child welfare, because welfare takes a lot out of you. And I know within just this pandemic alone, 50% of current social workers are considering leaving the professions within the next 18 months due to stress and the high demand of their time. And if you want to know like how that time and meets demands, because I saw another statistic, because like really all I just did was put social work and burnout and everything starts to just flowing in. And do you realize that here in the UK, on average, each social worker works 10 unpaid overtime hours because of work or because of visits or anything like that. 10 hours per week. Now, within my local authority, we get 2 non-working days, in regards to counteract those extra hours, which that's 2 days out the month. And I'm working 10 extra, on average, I'm working 10 extra hours over my unscheduled time, which is 4 weeks in the month. That's 40 hours, and I'm only getting 16 back. And that equates to those 10 hours of unpaid time per week, to where it's 64 days out the year. And so I'm missing 40 days of unpaid time. It doesn't make any sense. Like, there's amount of stress, there's also amount of things, and then there's a like, people don't understand that just because we have an 8 to 5 job doesn't necessarily mean it's 8 to 5. And it's literally within our contracts, is really within the job description. Like, yeah, your working hours are from 8:30 to 5 and from 8:30 to 4 on Fridays. However, it is expected that you are going to go over. And with any other job, like doctors, like nurses, it's expected to go over. There in those types of helping professions, it's expected that you're going to be going over. It's never, oh well, you can once it's 5 o'clock, it's 5 o'clock. And it gets frustrating. It gets very frustrating, especially within the job that I'm working, because I feel that there are other departments where they can, like, okay, it's 5 o'clock, time to close. Let's do out of hours, everything else in between. And I'm here as a on the floor worker, and I can't do that. I can't hang up my phone at 5 o'clock a lot of the times because of X, Y, and Z. And I know that I get terribly frustrated about that. But also, let's look into some statistics in the turnover rate, because it's grown. From 2020 it was 13.5, and now it's 15.4 of a turnover rate for child welfare workers here in the United Kingdom. So it's growing to be a problem. And if over 50% of current social workers are considering leaving within the next 18 months, that number is only going to go higher and higher because of the stress of the job, because of, hell, the lack of pay. If we want to get real about that, the lack of pay. And right now, even with the article, I'm going to refer back to the article, she said that one day it seemed like her body did an emergency stop button and she couldn't get out of bed. She laid in bed for 3 days, then called her doctor. And when she told her doctor that she was a social worker, it was right then and there. Like, got a script for time off and right there. And it's scary to think that all I can say is, "Oh, I'm a social worker," and they immediately know what is going on and what is impacted by him, because a lot of people don't understand, but they do the saying of, "Oh, we thank you for your service, like being a social worker is tough." And I was like, well, honestly, yeah, it's tough, and I wish I was paid adequately for the job that I do, but it's a helping profession. And my professor told me when I got into the profession, she was like, you don't come in for the money. You come in to help. And in actuality, yeah, we do that. We come in to help people that want the help. Or essentially, if the people don't want the help, we still come and try to do our best anyway. And the thing with child welfare is, whether the help is wanted or not, we're still there. And that's what I struggle with. It's like, if people don't want the help, let's move on. And that's a difficult task that I have to deal with as a social worker, because I'm like, I'd rather get people that want my help than to kind of force into my help. But a lot of times the help needs to be forced into, especially in child welfare, especially when there are children that are in danger or in potential danger. Like, we have to step in. And it's that struggle. And when you're forcing yourself into somebody's lives, you are impacted very much so. You bring on what their thoughts and feelings of what there's, if we want to get spiritual, their spirits coming to you as a social worker. And you have to, I tell people a lot of times I compartmentalize, and I try my best to compartmentalize, because if you don't, then you end up taking everything in and you don't have any room for yourself. Because there are some days where I'm literally just sitting there and I'm like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do nothing. I just want to lay in this bed, or I want to just watch TV or anything like that. Like, those are the days where you're just like, I just don't want to do it anymore. And a lot of social workers leave. Like, 4 in 10 social workers anticipate quitting within the next 5 years because of high caseloads, because of stress and negative working environments. I will probably be one of those social workers that leave within the next 5 years. I will always still be a social worker, and I'll still transition into whatever field that I want to. But it's hard to keep social workers because of the resources that we have, the resources as far as with the commodity. Because I can positively say about my team is that we all understand and we know all it's stressful, and we try our best to help one another. But at the end of the day, we know that things have to be done. Things have to be situated, and we have to work together in regards to doing. It's not social work, especially in child welfare here. It's not, oh, you can do your work and then that's it. No, it's like, well, if someone else can't do it or someone is off, you have to take over. Or if there's room on certain other things, then you can do it too. So it's like, oh well, if you have room, go ahead, let's take it. If someone else has something else, oh, let's go ahead and take it. It's a very fast paced and overwhelming job, and people don't get enough credit for it. Social workers don't get enough credit for it. Not financially, not physically, not emotionally. And a lot of times you do see social workers that just up and leave without notice. They'll just hand in their notice and leave. Hell, there's been several times that I've wanted to do that. Just basically be like, here's my notice, I'm leaving, and I'm never coming back. And it's difficult. And people don't talk about that hard truth for social workers. Now you can see abundance of videos, whether on YouTube, on Google or whatever, and say how social workers can deal with burnout, or how self care is the best care, and how just random different sayings that us social workers spew out to our family members, but we don't even take an account for ourselves. And we try. A lot of it we try, but it's also the stress and the overwhelmingness of, like, okay, if I even take the break, whether it be one day or 3 days, I know I'm coming back to a shitstorm. Lucky for me, as far as like for my position, and I usually, before I go on holiday and when I come back, nothing usually pops off. I've been on holidays multiple times while I've been here over the break, and nothing has really kind of just like popped off where it's been very serious and it's just messed up everything. But it's just more or less like, you know that there's a lot of work to be done, and be you could be the most organized person and still have stuff that needs to be due, because you have to do it. Timelines have to be met, paperwork has to be done, and a lot of times you may have a caseload of 25 and may turn to, I know one of my colleagues, one of her caseloads have turned to 50, and then it went back down to like 30 something, and then it is shot back up. It's it's an overall demand, and there's not enough social workers to meet demand, because right now my team is working on a 4.5 team, and we're supposed to be at 6.5. And even working at 4.5 is very overwhelming, because things have to be done, and then it can go down, it can extremely go down. And when you're supposed to be working at least 6 people on a team, and you're working with 4, that means those other 2 that you're covering it, and those 2 people could have a caseload of 20 or 25 at least. So you have to do 50 cases among the 4 other people. That could be a lot. And on average, you're supposed to have a caseload of 20. The math ain't mathing. To me, the math ain't mathing. I don't get it, and I don't understand. And a lot of people are making that shift, and it's not only going to affect the social work field, but it's also going to affect the service users, the families that we serve, because they can't put that time and effort in actually being there and actually getting to the root of the problem. And it's tough. It's very, very tough. And that's the hard truth of social work, that we can do as much as we can, and still it gets to a point where you want to walk away. And that's and it's hard to say, because when you say that, because a lot of times when I say, when I'm why did I choose social work, I was like, social I didn't choose social work chose me. And when you feel that a profession has chose you, and you are literally thinking about walking away because of all the other things that come into it, it's very hard. But also, there's a lot of people that made the transition and become very happy, because, mind you, social work skills are very transferable, and you can do any other job that you can in any particular other field and be successful. And people don't realize that. And because a lot of social workers can move on to become teachers, become coaches, become HR reps. Like, it's endless. It's endless opportunities. Just because you have a social work degree doesn't necessarily mean that you are limited just to social work. I mean, any degree. Just because you have a degree in math or degree in basket weaving, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're limited. You have a degree, and if you have the skills, you can transfer them to any other profession that you can. And also, social work is very broad. Social work is very complex. There's different areas, but I know a lot of the times when you do child protection and child welfare, that's where most of the burnout is. And a lot of social workers don't think about moving to a different area of social work. They just want to get out altogether. And for me, I've been in different areas of social work. I worked in medical social work. I worked in um, an advocacy center. I've worked in mental health. I think that's, yeah, and I've worked in like case management. I've done case management for children with disabilities. I've worked in different areas of social work. I think the only job that I really, really, really loved was my very first job, and I was working with teenagers in a mental health facility. That was the only job that I really, really loved. And now I'm in a job where I like my coworkers. I'm in the same position as I was when I was at my old job. I like my coworkers. I can do the job, but I don't like the job in a sense. I think the only difference from my old job to this job is I like the flexibility of my old job a lot better than my flexibility here, because there are many times where I don't come home until 9 o'clock at night, or I have to get up early to get things done, or I have to like circumvent other things just to get job A done. Because now my job is job A. Job A is to pay the bills, and job A is to make sure that I have what I need. It's not it's not a career anymore. It's not a career to me anymore. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me your thoughts about the hard truth of social work. And I want to reach out to all of my social workers, or the ones, the students or the trainees. What do you think one of the hard truths about social work is? Because really that's the truth, is burnout can lose valuable social workers. And in a sense, what can we do to change it? Thank you so much for listening in. This is your girl LD Marie. LD Marie. I can't even get my own name right. LD Marie, and you can follow us on the social media platforms, Instagram, and you can follow me on my YouTube. Subscribe, like, and subscribe this video, and you can also listen to me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Anchor. Thank you so much for listening in on today's episode, and we are out.